Today's video is about push-ups. I will be going through how many push-ups you should be doing, what is the proper structure when doing push-ups, the hand placement and the feet placement, a tutorial on how to do push-ups for those who are struggling, and for those who have no problem doing push-ups, I will be going through the variations of push-ups that you may be interested in trying out yourself. Before moving on to this video, you may need to watch a previous KarateFitness video, that is, Rules on Training Anything. Originally, that video was meant to be part of this video. However, some parts deserve a title on its own. There will be mentions of key points from Rules of Training Anything in this video, so you will need to watch that to fully understand this video. This section is summarized very briefly and it is explored more in the previous KarateFitness Rules on Training Anything video, so do check that out. In summary, if you're looking for general fitness, best aim for 30 continuous push-ups. If you're a general karate practitioner, I have a table on my website for the recommended number of push-ups according to ranks or belts, which is further divided into those below 13 years old and those 13 years old and above. And the last group is for competitive athletic karateka, which has no fixed recommendations, so all I did was to share how I used to exercise growing up. Now we go into the correct structure for push-ups. There are 5 key points. The first key point is palms directly below the shoulder. So not wider and not higher, just here. Second point is first finger point forward. So when you place it on the ground, make sure your first finger point forward, directly below shoulder. Third point is feet together, feet close. Fourth point is elbow always tucked in as you go up. And last point is waist and shoulder must raise together. So this is how it looks like. So lie down, flat on your belly, palms directly below your shoulders, fingers point forward. This is to make sure that your elbows are tucked in, feet closed. As you raise, your elbows must always be tucked in, and you raise your waist at the same time as you raise your shoulders. So that's the correct structure. One thing to keep in mind regarding the waist moving together with the shoulder is you have to make sure it's consistent all the way. And you always have to keep in mind on where your waist is every time you move up and down. There's a common mistake I see among students. They usually start off correctly, they go down correctly, but from then on, the waist barely moves. It's only the shoulders, and that is not proper push-ups. So what you want to do is to reduce this natural arc on your lower back. So try to straighten that, especially when you're on your way up, to avoid your abdomen or your waist from dipping down. So to be safe, try to be more mindful of where your waist is as opposed to where your shoulders are. And even better, try to keep your waist at the same level as your shoulders. So maybe instead of doing a straight line, you go up with your lower back straightened and down, up. Okay. Now we look into how to do the push-ups. So these are for those who are in the developing stage. For those who are developed, you can look into the next part to see other variety of push-ups. So for those who are developing, I further break that down into 2 groups, each with different starting point to train the push-ups. The first group is where you have the basic core strength. The second group is where you lack the basic core strength. So to determine whether you have the basic core strength, go down to the push-up position And try to do one single push-up with the correct structure, of course, like that. So if you could do this, you could do one where you raise with the waist and the shoulders raising at the same time, then you have the basic core strength. If you're forced to push your shoulder up first and then your waist in order to get yourself up, then maybe you fall into the other category where you lack the basic core strength. But don't conclude just yet. You can try to do it without the correct structure. Maybe with the hands out, elbow out, and leg open, and see whether you can go up. Now, if you still struggle doing that, then try lift your waist first and see if you can push yourself up. If you can't do any of these, then you fall in the second category where you lack the basic core strength, and we start off with a different kind of training for the push-ups. So for the first group where you have the basic core strength, we use the reverse push-up method. That is to start off down like this, and 1, drop, rest, 2, drop, rest, 3, drop, rest. So if you're able to do 10 of this and find it a struggle, this is the training for you. But you do 30%. If you find that this is quite easy, then you elevate your training. You increase the load. And you could do this. 1, drop, 2, drop, rest, 3, drop, 4, drop, rest, and so on and so forth. If doing 10 is easy, then elevate further by doing 1, drop, 2, drop, 3, drop, rest, and so on and so forth. Now, if you did the reverse push-up method and you started off with the incorrect structure, you could elevate the load by moving back to the correct structure. And when you do that, you find yourself being able to do less, and that's because it's considered increasing the load, and practice from there. Once you could do 10 continuous reverse push-ups non-stop without rest, then you could move on to the next stage, whereby you start from up. So 1 and rest, 2 and rest, and follow the same rule. If you can do 10 but struggle, that's the stage for you. If not, elevate by doing 1, 2, rest, 3, 4, rest, and follow the same rule. If doing 10 is not a struggle, elevate further. And for general fitness, the goal is to be able to do 30 continuous push-ups with the correct structure. Moving on to the other group, for those who lack the basic core strength, you would need to use the wall method. So this method is as straightforward as it sounds. You're basically doing push-ups on the wall. And for this, you must make sure that you do the correct structure. Do not use the improper structure. And the reason for that is because you're already reducing the load by using the wall. So first you'll start off with a wall here. If it's getting easier, you move back. Eventually you'll go lower, where you need to use a chair. Here. And eventually even lower, where you need to use a bench. Here. And finally, you get flat on the ground. One thing to never forget is to make sure that the waist and the shoulders are always aligned. So it's can be quite habitual to bring your waist down. And the reason you might want to do that is because you are trying to get close to the wall. But do not do that. It is your shoulders or maybe your cheek that needs to be close to the wall. So here. You may not be able to get your shoulders down because of the angle, so we use the cheek. And you find it that the lower you get, the more difficult it gets for your wrist. So what I tend to do is open up this way. I go lower. If you have a chair, that is the most ideal. If you don't have a chair, the next best thing is a pillar. So with a pillar, you're able to move to one side and get your shoulder to the pillar and change side. And when doing this, also never forget the rules. Always elevate and find the right load. So as you go lower, you're increasing the load. You must find the sweet spot where you're able to do 10 repetitions but still find it a struggle. The moment you find it easy, when you do 10, then this has become a waste of your time. It's no longer at your load that you should be doing. Finally, for those who have no problems doing push-ups, we're going to other variations of push-ups. So, of course, the common form of push-up is like this. A variation you could do is the wide push-up. So just widen as much as you can at shoulder level. Now, I don't find this to be a more difficult version of push-up. It's just different. For me, I feel it more to the side of the chest than to the center. The next variation would be over the head. So it's just here and push up. Okay. This too, for me, I don't find it to be a more difficult version. It's just different. And for this, I find it more on the core and less on the chest compared to the ordinary push-up. The next variation of push-up is something which is more difficult than the ordinary push-up. And that is where you place your hand together close directly in the center under your chest. For here, I find it more concentrated at the triceps and upper chest. The next variation will be the most difficult variation that I'll be sharing here, and that is called the Superman push-ups. The first time I was asked to do this by my sensei, I didn't know there was a name for it. So it was only many years later where I realized it's called the Superman push-ups. And that's because you start off flat on the ground, on your belly, legs straighten, hands straighten completely. Here you can see why it's called Superman. From here, raise up. Now here, I'm doing the reverse push-up version of the Superman push-up. I never bothered trying to do the version from the top. And this is not a push-up that I practice or train because I don't find it to be specific for karate. A more specific training for karate would be sprinting, jumping and plyometrics, and squats. All the techniques exactly as they are. If I was going into acrobats or gymnastics or calisthenics, then maybe the Superman push-up would be appropriate for my training. Otherwise, I usually do it just to show off maybe. The final variation of push-up is the variation that is perfectly designed for karate, and that is the knuckle push-up.
In a previous keyhole mechanics video, the straight punch, why and how, I demonstrated the jumping knuckle push-ups whilst explaining how you would need to train if you were to fight bare-fisted. What happens if you have to fight barefisted? You would train your punches such that your wrist only takes impact from one direction, that is lengthwise into your forearm from the face of the knuckles, and not at any angle either from the sides, top or bottom, hence a straight punch. You would train to ensure that all your punches lands on your knuckles and not your foreknuckles, but more specifically on your first two knuckles, which are the two largest, hence two strongest knuckles. You would train to condition your wrist and your first two knuckles so that it can take such impact.
And the reason why the knuckle push-up is suitable for karate is because traditionally, karate trains with a bare fist. We don't use hand wraps, and traditionally we don't use gloves. In Kyokushin, they still don't use gloves or hand wraps when they compete in kumite. For old WKF, which is the same like JKA, we use this white mitts, usually Mizuno brand, with this thin padding here, and of course no hand wraps. For modern WKF, we change it to this quite thick red and blue mitts, but still no hand wraps. So if you make a mistake in your punch and bend your wrist, you might hurt your wrist. And that is why the knuckle push-ups is perfect for karate. You train both your knuckles and your wrist. So how do you train for knuckle push-ups? So assuming that you already can do ordinary push-ups a good amount, all you do is start doing it on the knuckles on a soft surface first. Do not immediately start on a hard surface. So when you do on a soft surface, you're not yet training your knuckles, you're just training your wrist, strengthening your wrist. Oh, and before that, I do not recommend this kind of push-ups if you're below 18 years old. This is because this kind of push-up is considered body hardening training or hard body training or iron body training. And this is because when you're doing body hardening training, what you're essentially doing is damaging your bones. You are creating fractures in the microstructures of your bones so that they break up and misalign. And then when it grows back, when it fuses back and heals, the bone becomes denser and stronger. And this is called Wolff's Law. And Wolff's Law does not only apply to body hardening training. It applies to ordinary exercises. If you train your legs a lot or your arm, the muscles around that particular bone will cause us more stress and pressure to that bone. And that bone will eventually adapt to the pressure, becoming denser and stronger. And that is called Wolff's Law. And this is most apparent among the sports of tennis, because in tennis, the athletes are using one hand much more than the other hand. And when researchers look into them, they find that the dominant hand or the racket hand is much more stronger and denser than the other hand. So back to how to train the knuckle push-ups. So basically, if you could do ordinary push-ups, just do it on the knuckles on a soft surface first.
One point to not miss out is to make sure that you are standing on the first two knuckles and not the last three.
Do not immediately do on the hard surface because you might not be able to do many. And by doing it on a soft surface, you're not yet training your knuckles, you're first training your wrists. So just start off here. So if this is the first time you're doing knuckles push-up, you'll find that you are able to do less than as compared to ordinary push-ups. So all you need to do is just train consistently. And once you reach the amount of repetitions that you could do non-stop that you're looking for, then you could go on doing it on a hard surface. But don't immediately do everything on a hard surface. Let's say you could do 5 on a hard surface and you can't take it anymore, then do the next 25 on a soft surface. And then slowly increase that number, 10, 20, 15, 15, 20, 10, and eventually straight 30 knuckle push-ups. So that is all for this video. I hope you found this useful. Some of you, maybe you could use this as a tutorial. And if not, hopefully you found this interesting. If you find this at least interesting, please like and share. And of course, subscribe and hit the bell button to get notification.
And if you haven't watched the previous Karate Fitness video, Rules on Training Anything, do check that one out.
And do check out my other videos. I've got Kihon Mechanics, Karate Fitness, Karate Discourse, and a few more others.